on. Okay, are we ready?
ريدي.
طب اتفضل يا ابونا lead us in the
بسم الله والابن والروح القدس الان واحد امين. اللهم اجعلنا مستحقين كل بشكر ابانا الذي في السماوات. اتفضل يا دكتور.
Father, everyone, thank you very much. Welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about marriage and how can we make it alive all the time. Okay, so how are we going to benefit? Of course, you'll be able to explain what is a Christian marriage, and that's very important. How can you build some fun and make your marriage joyful all the time? And of course, how to create intimate, connected, and unconditional love relationship in your marriage. Those are very simple three things that really we will be able to do after we finish this session. So we'll talk a very quick survey, basically who is who. I'm going to talk about Christian marriage. What's the difference between Christian marriage and non-Christian marriage? Introduction of how to maintain your marriage. And I try to connect it to how do you maintain your car? So hopefully we can see some parallel between car maintenance and marriage maintenance. We're gonna have a lot of exercises, lots of discussions, lots of activities. So I really need you to be with us. Please put your video on if you can. And if you can't, we need your voice at least. How to maximize the benefit, of course, have an open mind. You know, some people say, I ask, when we had this normal presentation, I asked people to join us. No, I don't have any problem with my marriage. I don't need any marriage courses. Unfortunately, that is the mindset that unless you have a problem, you don't really need to attend, okay? Again, we need to remember that every marriage is unique. So sometimes I will talk something, maybe it doesn't apply to you. Maybe it does. So have an open mind. That's very important. The other thing that we really wanted to do is share your experience because we can all benefit from each other. And that's very, very important. And at the end, as usual, I will ask you to give us 2 things that you will start doing immediately in your marriage, whether either or, spouse, husband, or wife, and record that in the sharing box, and then we will share it with you later on. Just a very quick survey. Any newly married couples that we have, just maybe raise your hand or whatever. No? How about people that are 3 to 7 years? Everybody is more than 15, it looks like. Okay. So I just wanted to know who is there, and then I can focus. The first thing I'm going to ask you as a group, what is the difference between a Christian marriage and a non-Christian marriage? You talk to me now. What do you think?
A Christian marriage, God is in the center, like how we are 3.
Excellent.
2.
So a Christian marriage is really a marriage between 3, God and the husband and the wife. Thank you very much. That's number 1. What else?
احنا دايما نقول ان هو ده الاثنين ماسكين ايدين بعض علشان يشجعوا بعض يروحوا السماء. لو حد بيقع التاني بيسنده.
Excellent. So, again, we are one. لو حد وقع, we actually support him and so on. What else?
احنا دايما نشبه الكريستيان ماريج بالريليشن بتاعت التشيرش and Christ.
Excellent. And that is what we teach them actually in marriage courses and so on. Very good, very good. And of course, it is not a contract, just like everybody here is a contract. I can get out anytime. You are there for life. That's very, very important that we need to remember. One, unfortunately, some younger people, even unfortunately in our church, I remember talking to one girl and she got to know somebody, and I think 3 months later, she said, we are getting married next month or something like that. I said, wow, that was quick. She said, we'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, we'll get out. I said, oh my God. I was shivering when she was saying that to me. I said, we are in a Christian Orthodox church. You can't get out. So anyway, this is unfortunately what some people think. Remember that, again, a wife of noble character, who can find her? That is basically, I think you guys are much more aware of all this, but I just want you to remember that. So you really need, I want to focus on one thing out of what you said is, does God play an important part in your life? This is very, very important. And this triangle is what we teach them as part of the pre-marriage course. Is if, again, just like what Doctora said, that God at the top here and the wife and the husband and right here. And again, this is very important, especially for visual people. As you can see, as you get closer to God, the distance between you and your spouse is getting smaller and smaller and smaller until you become one. So very important, as a married couple, you need to strengthen your relationship with God first. And as you do that, you start discovering that you are getting closer and closer and closer. This triangle is very, very easy to understand and actually easy to follow too. So we need to explain that to all the people that are getting married, that you need to start strengthening your relationship with God, and it's just a natural byproduct that you will find yourself getting closer to your spouse, whether life, husband, whatever it is. I will actually try to compare your marriage to a car. Would you rather have a Mercedes or a Volkswagen? I hope that all of us can try to make our marriage looks like a Mercedes, the better quality. You have the choice. And of course, it needs three things that are very important: commitment to God, commitment to each other, and commitment to the marriage relationship. And all this is covered basically using the Bible as a guide. So let us just talk for a minute about, what does commitment to God mean? Can you talk to me now? When you said you need to be committed to God, commitment in marriage really means three things. One, commitment to God, to each other, and to the marriage as a whole. Any suggestions or any ideas?
Like, we try to keep a good relationship with God. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What?
Personal relationship. Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean?
Like, I go to church, I pray, I make a relationship with God, I read my Bible.
Excellent. And excellent. That's very good. And as you do that, you will start, of course, discovering that you see the relationship is getting stronger with your wife or husband. It's obvious. Okay. How about commitment to each other? Just like what Abuna said, that they are holding hands, that they are supporting each other. How about commitment to the marriage itself? Any ideas? We can talk about this for days, but you need to work with me.
We need to work on our marriage. يعني we need to مش ناخده for granted. يعني
Excellent.
we need to on the relationship.
Excellent. And one of the commitment to the marriage is attending a course like this. I want to improve my marriage. I want to strengthen my marriage. I want to maintain my marriage. That's very, very important. Let's move on. So I want you to reflect. I don't want you to talk to me now, but I just want you to think about what is going on in your marriage right now. Can you see a connection between what is happening today and what happened just maybe a few days before you get married? Is the connection strong, or a few days after you get married? Think about it. Think, what's the difference and why? So here's two questions that I really want you to think about it. Basically, is my marriage is as lively and exciting as it used to be? Very unfortunate, as we get older, this actually dies away. And I'll show you later on with the example of the car, that you are actually contributing, or this means that you're not committed to your marriage. My second question is, are you connected? Are you connected? Very, very, very important. Those are questions that I just don't want an answer, but I just want you to reflect on it. Maybe not now, maybe after we finish the session, just start thinking and sitting with your wife and say, let us think about that. How can we put some excitement in our life? How can we renew our life? I have another course on that, how to renew your life. Very important. So here is some questions that I really need an answer from you. How many times do you hug and kiss your spouse?
Never.
What did you say? Does it hurt?
I said never.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Okay, so there is an issue here, Doctora. You really need to do that 5 times a day. I remember we had one guy. I was teaching a similar course, and actually Abuna Loa from where is he from? From in the West, in Toronto area. Anyway, he was there, and we were talking about marriage. So I had 2 sessions, and he had 2 sessions. So anyway, I talked about kissing and how to kiss and all this. And at the very end, I asked everybody, tell me what was the best part. So one guy stood up and he said, you know, Dr. Sami, the best guy was the kissing guy. Excuse me, Abuna, malish, I am sorry, but kissing was the best part. Excuse me, Abuna. He said it 3 times. I said, why are you excusing Abuna? What is wrong with kissing? He said, let me tell you something. I never saw my dad kiss my wife, his wife, or my mom in all my life. So I'm not used to that. And this is one thing I really would like to tell all the parents is kiss your wife in front of your kids, because you are teaching them how to do that. Make sure that they see you, because otherwise, what are they going to learn? How to show emotions towards your wife or husband. Very important. The second question is, how many times did you compliment your wife or husband? Number three, how often do you go out together without the kids? This is very important. We're going to come back to those later on, because those are how you maintain your marriage. It's like basically, how do you maintain your car?
Shopping.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Basically, very unfortunate that most people ignore this kind of things, and unfortunately, it does reflect on your marriage. So let us now compare the car maintenance to marriage maintenance, because most people will understand car maintenance because they don't understand marriage maintenance. So I tried to connect the two together. Okay, so I'm gonna say one part and you say one part. So I'm gonna ask you basically to say, what is the difference between having a car and having a marriage? What's the difference between the two? You say that part, and I basically say what are the similarities. So I want you guys to tell me what's the difference between marriage and a car.
car دي حاجة ما فيش mutual relationship, like car doesn't give back, like in marriage.
What do you mean
we are
car
two
doesn't give back? It does give back, of course. You give it attention, it will go with you all the way. Can take you all the way to Edmonton.
Yeah, but I cannot talk to my car like can I talk to my husband.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, I'll consider that one. What else? Anybody else? Folks, this is not a webinar. This is a workshop. And we need to talk to each other. I need to hear from you.
I think, doctor, when the car broke down, we can take it to the garage, but marriage, we have to work on it.
But do you usually wait until the car breaks down? If the car breaks down, you can, or the marriage breaks down, you can take it to the counselor.
Some people can't see the symptoms, so we reach that point somehow.
That is true. I agree with that. I agree with that. And this is actually one of the things that. Okay. Anybody else?
I can change my car, but I cannot change my.
Very good one. I can change my car. In the matter of fact, very good one, Doctora. Yeah. Okay, you cannot change your husband. That's a good one. That's number one. What else?
The husband is or wife, human being. I can communicate and.
But you can communicate with your car too. Just how do you press the gas? This is how you communicate with your car. How about many people have two cars? You can't have two wives or two husbands, right? So I'm sorry, Annie. Some people maybe are not very happy about that, but that's okay. So many of us are basically have two cars. Sorry, you can't have more than one spouse. What else? Unfortunately, some people can afford the luxury of running their car until, of course, with no maintenance or anything, and then we just replace it. Of course, you cannot do that with marriage. What's the last thing? Car maintenance is expensive. Marriage maintenance is actually almost free. Okay? So please remember those 4 or 5 things. Okay, let's move on. So we are going to talk about basically the comparison between marriage and cars and so on. We'll start with focus on your car, focus on your marriage, focus on your spouse. This is so important. Get to know your wife, get to know your husband, get to know your car. This is so important. This is very unfortunate. I remember I was teaching a marriage course to empty nesters in our church. Empty nesters, those are the people that basically their kids left home and they went either to study or get married. So one day they had 3 kids at home. Now there is only husband and wife. And actually, one of the wives told me that she doesn't know her husband. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I really don't know him. We lived together for 30 years, but I don't know him." Most or almost 95% of our discussions on a daily basis welcome the kids. And as you can see here, basically you start the first 2 years, of course, are close to each other. Once the baby come, everything now is around the baby. Now the baby is going to school. Now the baby is going to grade 7, grade 9, 12, going to universities, all the problems with the universities, and all of a sudden they get married and they leave. Everything was centered around the kids. And that's why I always tell husband and wife, please focus on your spouse, not the kids. And that's very unfortunate that most, especially wives, they focus more on the kids. And all of a sudden they say, don't know him. Who are you? My question to you now is, how true is that in your life? I don't want answers, but I just want you to reflect. I just want you to reflect. Very important. Do you spend quality time together? Do you do exciting things together? You need to get to know the other person. Very important. Do you like basically if you are going for a date, if you are going for dinner together or whatever, do you dress nicely or you just go? Those are I'm not going to go through all of them, but those are things that really keep you together. And that is getting to know your car or getting to know your marriage. Very, very important. So here's an exercise. How can you make your spouse number 1 in your life? And this is very important exercise because it will reflect on your relationship for many years to come. You need to start working on it now. And that's why I was trying to find out how many younger people with us, because that really applies to them. And of course, it's never too late. You can always start tonight. So now I need you to talk to me. You need to give me 5 ways. How do you make your spouse feel that he or she is number one in your life? I'm waiting. I
Do
can't
something
continue
he
talking all
likes.
the time.
Like, sorry?
Can somebody else يا دكتورة استني شوية لما تشوف الباقي.
Okay.
I have another 7 people or 8 or 9. Actually, there's lots of people here. You folks, you are doing that already, I know. But you need to share it with us, then we can learn from each other. That's the whole purpose of a workshop. It's not a one-way. I can make a list and I pass it on to you and I send it to you as a letter.
They are shy. Yeah. Shy.
في ريسبكت يا دكتور، في شيرنج ديسيجنز، يعني في حاجات كتير.
طبعا I need to hear it from them يا بونا. ما هي
ماشي.
النقطة يعني we are working together to learn from each other, to learn from the experience of each other. I'm sure. How do you make your spouse feel important? How do you make your spouse feel number one? We need to give some examples. Like I'll give you one example. This is at least 20 years ago, oh, more than that, 25 years ago. I was thinking about doing my master degree. More than 30 years ago now. My master degree, and Mary was thinking of doing her master degree. We talked about it and said, okay, you go ahead first, because we can't have 2 people studying in the same house and we have kids. So she went ahead. This is one example of making her number one. You go ahead. She spent 2 years, 2.5 years, and I was actually lucky because I studied with her as well. So I benefit actually quite a bit. So this is one way of expressing your love, not verbally, but actual. I wanted to do my master's degree and you want to do it. Okay, you go ahead. And she went ahead, she finished. And once she finished, I did my master and then I did my PhD and so on. That's one way of expressing your love to your spouse. So what did you do for your husband or wife? I need 3 examples.
شجعوا يا جماعه.
I think maybe next time, Doctor, Wagdi, I just record it and send it to you. That's it. No, seriously. And you know. Okay. 2 things that you really need to do together and for each other is love and respect. Love and respect. Look at what the Bible says. Husbands, love your wife. Just like Christ loved the church and gave her up for her. That's very important message. I remember I was giving a lecture on marriage in Vancouver. One of the husbands came to me and he had his wife and say, you know, can you tell the wife what does the Bible say about the wife respecting her husband? I said, sure, but let me first start telling you what does the husband should do for his wife. And she started laughing. I said, Christ, the relationship between the husband and wife, just like Christ and the church. Christ gave up his life for the church. Are you willing to give up your life for your wife? Basically, he laughed. He didn't say anything. So, very unfortunate that most people just think but one way. Husbands, be considerate as you live with your wife, treat them with respect. They are all very important principles, and we're all familiar with all these sayings, but we need to apply it in our life. Okay. Number two, make sure that your love tank is full. Just basically, as you are basically filling your car up. Does it make sense to fill your tank once? I remember again, one time the husband said, I was trying to, I'm a marriage coach. So basically, they came to me and she told me about him, and he doesn't really express his love and so on. And she talked to him and she said, lie to me and tell me I love you. Can you see that? Lie to me. He said, I did that 25 years ago. If again, unfortunately, this is what happens in our mind as husbands. I told her I love her. What more does she need? So you really need to express that love. And of course, it's all in the Bible very clear. How far can you go on an empty tank? Not long. I can tell you that for sure.
سمعت يا أخي.
50 years.
Oh, what kind of marriage is that?
بلي 50 كيلو يعني زي 50 years.
Basically, what happened when when your emotional love tank is empty? Not much. Not much. So you really need to start filling the tank. And of course, this love tank is with your wife, with your friends, with your kids. It's all the same principle. I remember one time, this is again many years ago, I had one guy working for me or with me. He was much older than me. Like at that time I was 40, he was 65. Anyway, I was out of town. I came home and I found him in the hospital. So I go and visit him in the hospital and he looks at me and starts crying. I said, oh, what happened? He said, I have 4 kids live in town and nobody came to say hello to me. You are the first one after being in the hospital for 3 days. And he continues to say that, I don't blame them. I blame myself because I never give them the love and attention that they deserve when they were young. Now, when I'm old and they are old, they don't have anything to give to me. So it's not their mistake, it's my mistake. That's a very strong message. that we need all of us to remember, that you need to fill each other tank so you can draw on it. Again, exactly the same as bank account. You can't draw money from the bank if you don't have money stored there. That's very, very important. I'm not going to ask you questions because I know you're not going to answer. So I am not going to have any exercise. Find out the answer to the following questions. So basically, again, whether you are a husband or a wife, I need you to think about, did anybody read that book, Five Love Languages? Anybody?
Yes.
Excellent book. Excellent book. I really, I read it maybe 3-4 times. And it's basically the author, what's his name? Gary Chapman. Gary Chapman talked about basically 5 love languages. And what he said is everybody loves his wife. Every wife loves her husband. But does the other party feel that love? You can love your kids as much as you want, but if they don't feel it, it's not there. And this one happened. You need to discover, as you see here, what type of love language does your spouse. I think he talked about 5 love languages. One is quality time. The wife maybe love quality time, that you sit beside her and put your arm around her and talk with her. Maybe that's what she likes. On the other hand, the husband keep giving her presents. She doesn't like presents. She wants you to be beside her. That is the difference. Maybe the wife love acts of service. Maybe the wife likes you to go with her to the kitchen and help in the kitchen, rather than basically, give her presents. I don't want presents. I want your presence in the kitchen.
Yes.
The other one is physical touch. Maybe some wives likes physical touch. Maybe some husbands like physical touch much better than helping in the kitchen or doing this or doing that. So you really need to rediscover your wife and figure out what does she wants, what does she like. And the same way applies to the kids as well. Try to find out what is their love language. Very, very important. Let's move on. So basically an exercise, and I know you're not gonna respond, so just I'm gonna leave it with you. How do you fill your spouse love tank? Think about that and see how do you care for her, giving her tender loving care, spend life together, giving presents, whatever makes her feel connected with you. Very, very important. So my best advice to you is number 2 is basically don't wait until the love tank is empty. That's very, very important, because maybe it will rust, and once you start putting in it, it will go down. It doesn't stay there anymore. If it rusts up, doesn't stay anymore. So you really need to basically fill your tank on a regular basis. And I know you don't do that to your car. So don't do that to your marriage. Any questions so far? We'll do this and then we'll take a break, or Abuna wants 1 hour and then we can talk again in 1 more hour. Make sure that your engine is full of oil. Okay, you can't run without oil. Oil is basically communication. Oil is very much like communication. Communication is oil that keeps your relationship smooth. If you don't have good communication, your engine will run without oil. And all of us know what happened to the engine if it runs out of oil. First of all, that's the first thing. There is a gauge there. Okay, that you need to make sure that you watch the gauge, that there is oil there. Make sure that your oil doesn't get hot either. Okay, so your communication has to be smooth. So communication is basically a major part that will help your marriage. Here are some guidelines. Very important to think before you speak. And again, very simply, when you think before you speak, because you can save a lot of energy. Because what happened when you say something, it goes into your spouse's brain and stays there. You have no control over it. And you know what that means? It will be remembered for the rest of your life or her life. Even if you ask forgiveness and so on, maybe you'll get forgiveness, but you'll never be forgotten. Very important. Be a good listening. Is basically uh, 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 is the best gift that you can give to other people, or to your wife, or to your kids. It's a nice gift. Not too many people are good listeners. So be a good listener. Make sure your spouse feels that she is number one. We talked about that. Number 4 is really a great advice, is use conflict as an opportunity to improve the relationship. Conflict is not bad. Conflict is actually, I always say, conflict is a great way to improve relationship. So don't get upset if there's conflict in your marriage, but try to make use of it. Try to make use of it. Try to rediscover what upsets your spouse, husband or wife. Number 5, offer enough support as needed to the wife or to the husband. Both of us, as husband and wife, feel weak sometimes. And just like what Abuna said, when you are holding hands means if somebody's going down, you lift them up. That is so important. And that is needed. And needed badly. I can tell you that for sure. Another thing that really causes terrible and bad communication is basically expectations. You need to discover what are the expectations. What are each other expectations? I want you to imagine if you expect something from somebody and he does or not, she does not deliver, what happened? How do you feel? Of course, you feel disappointed. you feel discouraged, and that will reflect in your relationship and your communication. Number 7, pay attention to little things. Okay, so make sure that you listen to what is not being said. That's again very important. Talk with each other more often. Number 9 is extremely important. Try to see things from the other person's side. Think about that. Put yourself or herself in your shoes as a husband and see how does it feel. How would you react? How would you think? Then you can understand his or her position when you talk about it. Again, number 10, there is, of course, a long list. Those are the top 10. Be honest with yourself and with your spouse when you communicate relationship and so on. And again, all this comes from the Bible. Be quick to hear or listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Those are basically 3 best communication advice that you really need to be aware of. Okay, we should have a break right now. So if 1 hour is good enough for you, we can make another hour some other time. As Abuna said, that break it, because really it takes 2 hours. From 4 on, number 7 is quite long. So we'll leave that for another time. Any questions?
Why the physical touch is important if my husband's touch is not important for him? Like, isn't it more when we care for each other and do whatever the other is better? Like, the physical touch is, I don't see it so important. Like, why you're making like 5 times we have to hug and kiss, which I'm sure we don't do that, most of us. So why it's important?
Hi, hello.
Anybody can answer that before I answer it?
احنا بقى ممكن اللي بيربي قطه ولا عنده حصان ولا اي حاجه يقدر لما
Very good example يا ابوي. حلوه قوي دي.
بيطبطب عليه ولا حاجه بتريحه وبتخلي كده في
عشان animal.
لا ده انا بقول حتى الانيمال.
حتى الانيمال. Most people, Doctora, respond to touch, and actually they did a research, I don't know how many years ago, on babies. They had I think it was 25 babies or whatever, and babies where they hug them and touch them and care for them and basically care for them physically, and the other babies, and was quite a difference between the two.
I agree. Babies, they need the love of touch and caring بالطريقة دي. But I mean, لما نكون, because I saw lots of people, they can keep kissing and complimenting, but all fake. It's not true love. ده ممكن يكون أصلاً الhusband ده يعني have affairs and he's doing that. Like, I don't see it as like something important. يعني it's not going to be bad, but I mean, it's not في نظري so important as to be truthful and really do something sacrifice for the other two because he like it.
I am not arguing with that. I'm not arguing with it, and that's what I said. Try to discover your husband or your own. So obviously you don't like touching, which is fine, but you may like presents. Do you like presents?
No.
Or compliment.
I like helping.
Okay, you like he called her basically acts of love. You like somebody to go to the kitchen and help her out, or do this for her, or something, do this for her. Like for my wife, for example, she said one thing for her that really likes is I filled the tank for her car. So I said, okay, sure. Every time the tank is full, I go by myself. She doesn't like to go to the gas stations. That is expressing love for her.
Yes.
So if that's what she likes, I do it.
Yeah.
Okay. But she also likes touching. So I do it. So what I'm trying to say, the doctora, is rediscover your husband or your wife love language and do it. Not all of us like touches. Not all of us like presents. Like I remember one husband and wife they were talking. He said, I buy her presents all the time. She said, I don't need them. Okay.
Yes.
Then obviously she doesn't need presents. Try to figure out what is important for her. And again, not all of us the same. Try to attend to what counts for your spouse. Good question. Anybody else has any questions? If you have time, you can read the book. You can buy, actually it's only $10 now you can buy it on the internet and you can read it online. It's an exceptionally good book, very good book, and there's lots of good ideas at the back, very practical ones. Anything else?
ربنا يخليك يا دكتور، تعبين حضرتك
شكرا يا
ده.
ابونا. يعني يا ريت to closing prayer and then we can.
هنعمل مرة تانية يا دكتور سامي إن شاء الله.
يعني محتاجة تكملة يا دكتور سامي بعد إذنك.
شكرا يا ابونا.
اللهم اجعلنا مستحقين كل بشكر أبانا الذي في السماوات. انتوا بسلام، سلام ربنا يكون معاك. كتر خيرك يا دكتور، ربنا يعوضك. كتر الف خير.
ربنا معاكم. Thank you very much for attending.
كل سنة وحضرتك طيب. ربنا يخليك.
كل سنة وانتم طيبين.